Hey everybody, welcome back to Just Around the Corner. Today I have with me Lauresa Larson. She is a registered dietitian and she is also the owner of Heal and Hope Nutrition. Lauresa, it's so great to have you on here and thanks for just joining me today. And I'm excited to get to know more about you and your practice.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Well, one would just love to hear more about how did you get into this field and then how did Heal and Hope Nutrition really come about?
Sure. Yeah. It's a fun story. Um, let's see. So Heal and Hope Nutrition, I'll just start with kind of where we're at now and then kind of back up from there.
Amazing.
So we help people make peace with food in their body, and that feels a little bit abstract to people who aren't as familiar with that kind of work. But we work with all people on the spectrum of like disordered eating and eating disorders. Sometimes people call it food struggles, food
Mhm.
is hard, stuff like that. Eating disorders have a lot of different flavors and looks, and I mean, any person that you could see, any body shape, any ethnicity, any gender can have an eating disorder.
Mm.
And but at the heart of an eating disorder, we people feel crappy because they're not nourished well,
Mm.
and pretty much always they have a pretty poor body image. And so what we do is we call nutrition therapy, and basically we are figuring out how to help this person get nourished so that they can feel better and then be able to do deeper work and also feel better in their body. Um, let's see. So the nourishment is the key, but it's also the hard part. And so people, excuse my background sound is over there. Um, but getting there is the hard part, and that's how we help. So um, let's see, the practice is now 5 years old. It was 5 years old in August. So happy birthday.
Congratulations. Happy 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, 5 years is a big deal for a small business. So I've been celebrating
It
that.
is. Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you. Let's see, I've lived in Northwest Arkansas for almost 10 years, and my babies, my twins are almost 10. We moved here right after they were born.
Wow.
And so when we moved here, I was I was doing a lot of baby stuff and I was doing the stay-at-home mom thing and I was doing a lot of learning because babies are slightly boring in a way. And that's when I discovered, I mean, they're like a lot, but they're also like there's a lot of nothing to them, I
Yes.
guess,
Yeah.
intellectually.
I just love the just honesty and frankness of it, you know?
They're so much more interesting and fun now. It's great. Um, and I have one other kiddo, so I have three. But yeah, it was kind of during that time that I really picked up intuitive eating and I did some trainings and I got really excited because in school, when I went to be a dietitian, um, I was interested in the field, but I eating disorders were a probably like a 2 day presentation that we learned about in our clinical nutrition class, which lines up with like the medical field training. I think they might get a couple weeks on eating disorders, if not less. Yeah.
Not a lot
And
at all.
intuitive eating, not a lot at all, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure mental health counselors get like a brief mention. I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, I would say like in my diagnosis class, we spent some time on eating disorders, but I think, again, along the lines of what you're suggesting is it's a larger conversation and there's so much more to it than really any of us, I think, give the time or credit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and it's multidisciplinary as far as treatment goes. And
Mm.
so Um, I mean, you were telling about like the purpose of your podcast, and you cannot, like, if someone comes and works with me and they have an eating disorder and they don't have other team members, then that's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to help them find
Mm,
a mental health counselor, sometimes two, sometimes three. You know, sometimes people have multiple therapists. You might have talked about that.
mm,
Um, then we need a medical doctor, we need a psychiatrist, and that's the minimum for outpatient treatment. So,
yeah.
um, yeah. So eating disorders are a lot. Yeah. So I kind of found my way through intuitive eating. I started, I was just really excited about it. I started talking to everybody in my life about it and teaching all the people about it. And that eventually grew into me getting my first client.
Mm,
And that was super exciting. That was more than 5 years ago. And then it was my second or third client. We're talking, we're working through things. And then I realized, oh, shoot, like this person has an eating disorder and it's
mm,
undiagnosed and it's a blown, this is like, I'm way over my head, basically. I
wow.
recognize that pretty quickly. Um, and at the time, I was doing the intuitive eating certified counselor training.
Mhm,
Um, so Evelyn Tribole and Elise Rush do that. And so I was part of that is you do some supervision sessions with Evelyn or Elise, and
mm,
it's super awesome.
yeah.
And so I was talking to Evelyn about this client, and she said, okay, you have a choice to make. This person clearly has an eating disorder. They need someone who's qualified to help them. You are not currently qualified to help them. Because like you said, you're in over your head, like you're floundering. And she said, but everyone starts somewhere, so you can choose to put in, you know, 3, 4 times as much background work into working with this client, into like studying and learning and getting support, or you can refer them on to someone else. And at the time, I had the privilege to have time
Mm,
and the resources to do that. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I met with Evelyn, and I also started a training, and that was just kind of the beginning. And there was a lot to learn, and I'm still learning lots and lots and lots. But it's been, uh, yeah, I can't remember, 5 or 6 years since then that I've been getting a lot of training with eating disorders.
mm.
So that's all been post grad. And I really enjoyed it. I feel like I'm in the right place. This is like, these are my people. I really love working with this population. Yeah, I really enjoy my job.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I think that that's so beautiful that you took the time and you did the trainings and you leaned in and said, "No, like I really feel passionate about this and working with these people and helping them navigate um, these things and their relationship with food. And so I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna do more so that I can be qualified to really help these people. And so that's really amazing. And I think I'm just constantly reminded, and even in your story, of how it feels like in the world of healthcare, a lot of times us as professionals and providers, we just kind of fall into it, like life just
Mhm.
happens and you encounter something new and you're like, whoa, there's actually a whole world here. And I think I'm really into it. And I think that like I want to get serious about this. And that's just so neat, just seeing how it seems like it played out that way for you too. And just as you, yeah, navigated just seeing and working with people.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely my story. It's tough because people like RDs to be talk to me and they're like, oh, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a very convoluted path, not one that I don't know exactly how you follow it. So there is a way, but it's not. There are some dietetic internships now that are eating disorder focused. They do exist. There's very few of them, and unfortunately, the RD licensure is there's not enough internships for grads.
Mm.
Um, about 50, you get 50% placement rate for an
Wow.
internship, and you do the internship to become licensed. So there's a lot of issues there actually, but um, yeah, I will just stress the fact that like there was some luck and I ran into the right people, and also I definitely had the privilege of, I mean, my husband was working full time and I was figuring things out, So I'll name that privilege is very real.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like there is still need, there are opportunities, are ways to do what you're doing. And just like every field, there are barriers, and there are just systemic things set in place that can make it hard to do that if the stars don't align sometimes. Um,
Yes.
and I'm curious, you used the term intuitive eating. And for those that aren't familiar, can you tell us a little bit more about what is intuitive eating?
Yeah, I love intuitive eating. So it's a framework for self-care and focused on food, nourishing our bodies. And there's 10 principles. There are there's I think over 100, I mean last time I checked over 120 studies validating the effectiveness of this. And basically what the studies show is that by working on these principles, people have improved health outcomes, and it's not weight specific. It's not a weight loss program. Um, it is weight inclusive is the term, meaning like um, we are going to set aside your weight as a um, an uncontrollable factor that it's going to do what it's going to do, but we have these other controllable factors and measures like your energy levels and like is your like feeling confident with like being connected to hunger and fullness and satisfaction. And I mean you can improve, let's say, like your cholesterol numbers without pursuing weight loss dieting,
Mm.
for example. um, so the 10 principles are things like rejecting the diet mentality, making peace with food, honoring your hunger, uh, joyful movement. I'm naming about half of them off the top of my head. It's stuff like that. You can go look it up. It's
Impressed that
super
you named
great.
half of them. Like that was impressive.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I
Wow.
also really like there is now a studied it's like a questionnaire. It's inside of the if you buy the intuitive eating workbook, it's in the front of it, and it has these like four different sections that you evaluate questions like, I avoid eating foods with carbs and fats or something like that.
Mm.
Um, I use that a lot. You can use it on yourself. You can use it with your clients. I would think that it would be appropriate to do even if you're not in this world, if you're any kind of clinician, you could whip that out and kind of get engaged. It helps clients understand like, oh, maybe this isn't normal
Mm.
as well. It doesn't diagnose eating disorders, of course, but if if somebody is struggling with an eating disorder, they're going to score very low, I guess, on that intuitive eating assessment. So yeah.
Yeah, man, there's so much about what you just said that is so important. And like a couple of key things that you said were weight is not a controllable factor. And
Yeah.
I think that that is such a like huge misconception within our culture, is that diet culture promotes the idea that we can control our weight. And if we are not doing that, then we are doing something wrong and we're lazy. And that's just not true. And there's the intuitive eating book that you can read that has more information on the research that you mentioned. And um, just realizing how many factors are at play within our weight and how really it's not within our control. I know that for me personally, that was like a game changer. Like, whoa, I have really been lied to for a long time.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad that you've experienced that personally. It is like a huge game changer, paradigm shift. Um, yeah, I had that realization for myself too. It was a personal journey as well. And I also want to mention that, like, I think another way to say it is that genetically, uh, we're all designed to have a bell curve of body sizes,
Mm,
and that's normal.
yeah.
And also, I just want to throw out that the average breast size in the United States is a size 16, 18. That's the top of the bell curve. And then it goes down from there, as in like up in size and down in size.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is so good. And so just to share more, because I don't think I've gotten to share this with you, but I've done some trainings on eating disorders, have had my own like recovery journey with my own disordered eating experiences, and just find a big passion in our bodies and nourishing them. And nourish is also another word that you used a lot that really stood out to me is we live in a culture where it's about fueling, and food is fuel to continue to do the work that we're doing, instead of food is a mechanism for nourishment, for
mhm.
connection, for with self and with other. And I think that those are a lot of big paradigm shifts that um, we don't realize we need or we haven't been living in. And um, there's for people listening, if you want to continue to explore kind of this bell curve concept that you're talking about, is there's a video, you might have heard of it, called Poodle Science. And it talks about how we are kind of like dogs, like, and what studies have done and the way that our world is operated, as if like we should all be poodles. And poodles have a very specific body type. They operate a certain way, and we're not all poodles. Some of us are GSPs, some of us are terriers, and that's going to look different. And so the standard of which we measure health and weight um, really is a lot more personalized and dynamic than I think we traditionally talk about it. And so I love that what you're saying excites me, because I'm like, yes, like, uh,
Yes, I shout it from the rooftops every day with my clients. Oh,
yeah.
I also wanted not to go down a rabbit hole, but reading Fearing the Black Body was a big changer for me in the last few years. And it just talks about how this beauty ideal has existed for hundreds of years and it's kind of shifted over time. But health, this idea of health, is framed in the model of what was seen as beautiful.
Mm,
Like the beauty standard came first, and then it was racialized because of slavery.
yeah.
And then it was, this is what's healthy. So that's a huge problem.
Yes. Yeah. Like there is so much of the messages that we have received about our bodies that have been um, just politicized, used as mechanisms for prejudice, and they've just lasted throughout time. But the context we lose, and so then we just assume that that's what's good and what's normal.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Mhm.
Yeah, man, that makes so much sense. And again, like I'm excited, and for people who are listening, and maybe this is the first time that you're hearing something like this. And if you're curious, want to encourage listeners for you guys to explore more, and also want to be curious, Lauresa, like how can people who are curious, who are asking the questions, like, okay, like I do feel stuck with eating with my body, or I just want to know if I'm healthy or not. How can people get in contact with you, and what does that look like?
Yeah. You know what? Send me an email. If you're like, I don't even want to work with you, but I need to be pointed in the right direction, like, but here's where I'm at, like, send me an email. I would love to. There's so many resources though. Um, I, it's like it's like if you've never heard of this world before, and then you find it, and you're like, wow, it's this whole universe over here I didn't know existed, but it's all there. So you can just Google things like um, weight inclusive. You know what? Weight inclusive nutrition and dietetics. Wind has a book list on bookshop.org. They've got a really great collection on there, actually, of books. Um, I mean, fat positive res resources. There's a lot of wonderful, amazing people in larger bodies identifying, it's like self-identifying as fat who have been fighting this fight for a long time in like the social justice framework. And I think that like we really need to be looking towards their work, especially because yeah, they've been just working on this a lot longer than a lot
Yeah.
of people even realize. So uh yeah, fat positive, I'm blanking on the other word, but those words will get you started on the Googles.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's so great that, yeah, it can be as simple as a Google search and finding out more information, and that, people can reach out to you whether or not they want to actually come to Heal and Hope Nutrition, but they are just want more resources, want to know what's out there, what's available, that you're offering that. And I think that that's really beautiful, and feels inviting and safe. And I think when it comes to work, especially around our bodies, and our weight, that can be very sensitive, very vulnerable, to take the risk to be curious about that, to ask a professional about that. And so I love that it sounds like you're really creating a spot of curiosity and safety for those people who are wanting to explore and learn more. And that's just so needed.
I just get excited about if people actually want to have this conversation, they want to go learn. Please talk to me. I want to be part of that conversation. It doesn't happen as much. People don't just email me about, oh, that's a good book to read.
Yeah, you
So,
mean you're not getting hundreds of emails a days about, what's this book? Can you tell me? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Um, so tell us
Um,
a little bit more about Heal and Hope Nutrition. What kinds of work do you guys do specifically? Like, who would be maybe a good fit um, when thinking about potential clientele?
sure. Yeah. Okay. So, um, we have a physical office in Rogers. I'm in my office right now. I have two members of my team, clinicians, Jennifer Myers and Sarah Durand. Jennifer is local here, and then Sarah is virtual only because she ended up moving to Rhode Island. And so we all kind of have our own kind of specialty within the area. I will say that our for the area, our specialty is eating disorders and disordered eating, which
Mm,
is pretty broad. Like in a place like New York, I mean, I would be like a, gestational diabetes, uh, eating disorder dietitian. So like something very
yeah.
specific like that. Um, but here there are very, very, very few registered dietitians who are trained in eating disorders in the state of Arkansas. Although if you're willing to go virtual, there are more and more who are licensing in Arkansas,
Mm,
so can get a little specialized there. Um, but let's see, did write down it. So for me, um, my personal strengths lie in self-compassion work. I work with adults. I don't work with teenagers and kids, actually. And I do have several clients with severe and enduring eating disorders. And for that reason, I actually don't have any openings in my client load right now. All my clients have been with me for several years at this point. Um, and then also PCOS. I've gotten a lot of training in PCOS and that overlap with eating disorders, and I really enjoy people helping people with PCOS. Jennifer's specialty is guiding adolescents and young adults. So we kind of complete each other there, and their families through the recovery process with an eating disorder. The majority of her clients have co-occurring disorders that they work alongside with a therapist. There is a lot of that, things like OCD, ADHD, neurodivergence in general, that there seems to be a high co-occurrence with eating disorders. Um, which you probably knew that already. So we're all working on being able to best support our clients with those co-occurring disorders. Jen works with a lot of college students and athletes and high schoolers. And then Sarah specializes in pediatric nutrition, intuitive eating, functional nutrition, and gut health. And she really has a gift to like work on getting to the root of cause of symptoms and disease, which is the basis of functional nutrition.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
did that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, it totally did. And I love that you guys all have very complementary like areas of focus where you're able to really give people at any phase of life support that they need. And I think just something that you mentioned alongside of kind of describing the people that you see in the work that you do is eating disorder work is still very new in I think the South specifically, but experiencing that in Arkansas, and I think that there's still a lot of education that needs to be done about what even are eating disorders. There are so many people that don't know that they have one or know how to know if they do. And I think even it's something that I've definitely heard a lot of and talked about in different trainings is there can be a misconception that unless you're super, super thin and your bones are poking out, that you don't have an eating disorder. And, you know, you've already mentioned this, but your weight could be you could be of any weight in a smaller body or a larger body and be facing an eating disorder. And so um, it's good to have that framework of just being more open to, hey, this is actually one, a lot more common. And the criteria to meet these diagnoses or categories is more than sometimes we think. And so I love that it sounds like you guys are trying to really have a holistic approach with your clients of targeting in all different areas and really having a lens for seeing how much these symptoms are co-occurring with other diagnoses, as well as just educating clients on, hey, like, um, this is what this looks like, and this is what health looks like. And actually, there's a whole spectrum and a whole world of this. And so I think that that's super valuable and um, encourages me as a therapist who's like passionate about this and wants that for my clients to know that and to have a welcome space. Like that feels really um, just reaffirming of like, okay, I love that there is a place in Northwest Arkansas where people can come and just be who they are, ask questions, and be met well in that.
It's very sweet. I'm sure how that's how your clients feel when they come and work with you too, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say. Um, for people who want to get connected, are there things that you're doing in the community or other ways that people can just, yeah, have access to you and your team and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, yeah. Um, we are not working on any special projects right now. But beyond just like the one-on-one counseling, um, And I did want to, however, message or okay, let me answer the question first. Um, please reach out to me. Like I said, just email me. That's the way to get in contact with me. I'm very simple. You know, just email me. My email's on my website. I won't read it out to you right now. And if there's
I'll
something
include it
that
on
you
on
feel
the
like,
episode.
yeah, yeah. If you feel like there's something that you would really align with, our work and my work, then I would love to hear from you.
Mm.
Um, secondly, I wanted to say that a lot of the people that I work with now, not all, but a lot of them have a very long eating disorder history, and it is long because they didn't really get the help that they needed early on.
Yeah.
And what we know about eating disorders is that if you act quickly and you take it seriously from the beginning, then you can have the chances of full recovery are much, much, much higher. And so I just wanted like your audience to be aware that the resources in Arkansas are limited. However, we now have two virtual, like full on treatment centers that are completely virtual that are licensed in Arkansas now. And one of them is Equip, and they do family-based treatment. So it's up to age 24, and they work with the families. Um, and that's what has been proven to be most effective with young adults and teenagers. And then within health is adult populations, and they're able to provide up to it's called partial hospitalization level of care. It's a game changer for Arkansas because up until, I mean, you pretty much have to leave the state, which
Yeah.
means like leaving your family, sending your kid, leaving your job, like so there's a lot more options now. And so the earlier we act and we get the support, the more chances of that person actually getting better. So I wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And then the
Thanks.
last thing is, oh, go ahead.
I just thanks for sharing that. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great that we can have access to that because you're right. Yeah, like most people do have to end up leaving the state, and that can make a problem even harder to address when it requires so much sacrifice.
I mean, it's like inherently traumatic
Yeah,
just
yeah.
in and of itself. Like
Let's try to make
it's
it less traumatic more in trying to get the help, like, oh man.
yes, yeah. And some people will still have to get that in-person higher level of care. What I do is outpatient level of care, and that is the lowest level of care that's offered. So just wanted to say that. And then lastly, I would love if anyone listening to this knows a dietitian locally who is um, studying this kind of stuff, learning, interested. Like, I want to connect with them. So I'm going to put that bit out there. Please reach out to me. It just feels like a little alone. Especially if you're in Northwest Arkansas, like that would be amazing. I want to meet you. So,
I love that. Yes. Yes. Well, I hope that there are some people out there listening who are like, I have got to get in contact with Lauresa, whether it's their fellow dietitians, they're studying to become a dietitian, or they're just somebody out in the community who's saying, you know what, I'm kind of new to all this stuff, or, I've had my suspicions and I've wanted some help, but I didn't know where to go. That you
mhm.
guys can get connected to Lauresa and she can either point you to somebody else or just contact you with somebody within Heal and Hope Nutrition that can really help and support you through that journey. And you mentioned that right now you don't have any current openings. Is there a waiting list? What does that look like?
Yeah, if someone wants to work specifically with me, I do have a waiting list. And then both Jennifer and Sarah also have openings. So,
Cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. I feel encouraged. I learned some new things. I don't know if you saw, but I was taking notes over here and I'm like, oh my gosh, these are amazing tools and resources. So I'm excited for just my own exploration in some of the things that you mentioned. But yeah, any last thoughts that you want to just share with those viewing?
Yes, actually. Wanted to say that a pretty universal experience with clients who are not nourishing their bodies well is that they feel crappy in some way. And sometimes it's this like general feeling. And the thing is like we get used to feeling crappy. Like our pain tolerance is such that we adjust to pain. Like we change our back like posture to avoid the pain in our shoulder, you know. We do that with this discomfort in our body. And it becomes normalized because diet culture is so normalized. And fat phobia like is the bedrock of so much in our society. So like I just want to be a voice for you could feel really great. You could feel great. You don't know how good you could feel if you nourished your body. And also, no matter what your size is, like your body is worthy of nourishment. And when we nourish our bodies, it's this relationship. Like we put in, and then our bodies respond with like the energy to do what we want to do and live into our values and to really like offer like more wisdom for our lives. And like that is all possible. It's all possible. And you might not see it as normal, like your family or your social environment might be saying something else, but like I hope I can be a little bit of a voice of painting a picture of another possibility.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
that's
my soapbox.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And I think what you're saying is so true of sometimes we don't know actually how much we're hurting until somebody takes some of that pain away and you're like, "Whoa, oh my gosh." Like it's like before I had glasses, I didn't know I couldn't see perfectly. And then I put on my glasses and I was like, "Are you telling me that this was out here and I didn't know that?" Um, there's so many ways in which our bodies are super smart in compensating for pain. But when that becomes our normal, we start living in a actually really lesser version of the quality of life we could be having. And so, what I hear you saying is you're just opening up an invitation to more, um, which is just really feels really good and exciting.
100%. Thanks, Sarah.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for um, just joining me today and sharing with us just what you do. And, um, I feel like we talked really broadly, and there's probably so many rabbit holes that we could have gone down. And so we might have to have some more episodes where we go down those rabbit holes. But um, I'm just glad to get to open that door to more conversations and for curiosity. So thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.